And we're live. Pep Talk UK. Smash that subscribe button. Smash the like button. Joe P joined by Jay Alby once again. Jay, how are you, mate?
All good, Joe. All good. Lovely to be back. And yeah, no, excited. How are you?
Good. Enjoying the sun. Bit tan, bit burnt, but yeah, lovely to have a bit of sun. Lovely to have a bit of weather, and hopefully the boxing will start picking up from now. We've got a great
Hopefully.
fight this weekend that I'm sure we'll talk about later. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, the title with Fury and Dillian Whyte's comments. The rescheduled fight is now being rescheduled for October. A lot to talk about in the world of boxing, but we want a lot of fights to talk about, not just a lot of politics.
No, exactly. There's a lot of fights to talk about. Like you said, we'll probably talk about the fight that happened over the weekend, the comments from Dillian Whyte, rescheduled fight for Fury Wilder, some other big fights coming up, fight camp and everything. So yeah, look, we've got a good show. Obviously, we've got a guest on later as well, which would be fantastic to speak to our guest later, get some knowledge, get some insight into the world that we love, boxing, and also into other sports. So yeah, no, Joe, very excited for tonight's show. Everyone get your comments in. Obviously, like Joe said, get your likes in for the video and subscribe. Pep Talk UK, and yeah, let's get going then, Joe.
100%. And from about 7 o'clock, we've got legend of the boxing industry, Ambrose Mendy, agent, worked with the likes of Nigel Benn, various other legends in boxing, manager, agent, and it'll be fantastic to get his opinions on the current world of boxing and yeah, just a great legend of boxing. Last week we spoke to guys in the MMA world, Mike Goldberg, the Art of 5000, and Bruce Buffer. So great to get some more guests on, Jay.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's always good to get guests on, always get some knowledge, especially for the fans, especially for us. We always learn something new when a guest comes on. And yeah, no, I'm excited. We've got first half hour here, talk about some of the fights that we were discussing and that. And then, like you say, a nice big guest on at 7 o'clock. So yeah, get your questions in, anything you want to ask. We'll interact with you. We're here for a couple of hours at least. So yeah, get your comments flying in.
Definitely. So we'll start off with Dillian Whyte's comments over the weekend, and I'm just going to read out two articles of what Wilder has said, what Dillian Whyte, has said about Tyson Fury, because obviously he's mandatory for Tyson Fury's WBC belt. So he was hoping to get the fight with the winner of Fury Wilder taking place, which was meant to take place this Saturday. We was all so excited for it. Obviously now been postponed. We've spoke about the postponement and the COVID situation for a lot now over various lives with ourselves and Kenny Ken. But yeah, this is what Dillian Whyte had to say. He told The Sun, Tyson Fury is a wanker and a disgrace to British boxing. If he has caught COVID-19 and gone around Las Vegas mixing with fans after cancelling the Deontay Wilder fight, he talks shit because when you have COVID-19, you are sick and you have to quarantine. And instead, he is walking around smiling, mixing and taking photos with people. He didn't mince his words, did he, Jay? He didn't mince his word. What's your opinions on this one?
Look, Dillian Whyte, he's a man of built-up frustration. Look, he should have had a title shot years ago. The guy waited such a long time, and it's like a caged animal. When you cage an animal and you poke and prod him for so long, you're going to get outburst. And this is what we're getting from Dillian Whyte. Look, he's a man. Look, this is where I go again. The politics of boxing, just screwing everything up. UFC, as we said, Dana White wouldn't have stood still with this. He would have said, look, Deontay Wilder, are you ready to fight? If so, we're going to have an interim title fight, and when Fury's back later in the year, we'll crack on with the heavyweight title. But look, boxing stands still. We're waiting around. It just, nothing gets done. Look, there's no reason why Deontay Wilder couldn't have fought Dillian Whyte in this time. Do you know what I mean? If boxers these days they got no confidence in themselves, because if Deontay Wilder was confident and a true champion, he would have said, look, I'll take Dillian Whyte on now, because he'd have no problem fighting Fury. But look, the risk is too big in their eyes, and they don't. They wait around for when they think the fight's going to happen. And look, we've had a delay to this fight, and it's frustration all round. And look, Fury, I don't really want to comment on that. We don't know when the photos were taken. He's been in Vegas a long time. They could have been taken a while ago, and someone's put them up now. We don't know the ins and outs. All we know is there's a postponement, there's a rescheduled date, and that's all we can go with, really. Do you know what I mean? There's no point arguing over ifs, buts, and maybes. What we do know for definite is it's been postponed. It was meant to be this weekend. We're all gutted. It's meant to be happening on October the 9th. I'm sure it will, but until it happens, we don't know. And look, like I say, boxing stands still again. We're going to be a few months. Really, in the fall, we should have been talking about Fury's next fight or Wilder's next fight, but instead we're going to be going back to this fight, and it just all stands still. The heavyweight division stands still. But look, there's big fights to be made in the heavyweight division, Joe. Look, it's fully stacked at the moment, and I'm sure some big fights can be made. I've heard rumours of Dillian Whyte, Andy Ruiz. I'm sure that could be a massive fight that could happen. But look, the guy deserves a title shot. I think everyone knows that. And he didn't mince his words towards Tyson Fury, but I think he's frustrated with the whole situation. Wilder, Fury, whatever it is. But look, there was pictures of Joseph Parker apparently at the UFC event. We don't know what's happening with the COVID. It's been quite hush-hush. Really no clarity. When people have been asked about it, it's kind of been thrown to one side, not really affirmed. This is who's got it. This is what happened. This is what. It's just been, he's had it, rescheduled date, go with that. So I'm just going to go with that. I'm not going to get too amped up about it. I'm sure the fans will, and we can get into a debate about it, but we can only go on definites, and a definite is it's been postponed, and we're going to see it in October. But look, like we said, there's some big fights out there, Joe.
Definitely, and obviously we've got a big heavyweight fight this weekend with Joe Joyce and Carlos Takam, which is a fight I'm really looking forward to. I love Joe Joyce. I've said it numerous times on the channel, but let's get a couple of comments coming in here. We've got Gunner 04 says Fury is clearly the best boxer in the division, but he's a joke. He's still never defended a title, and that is true. He has never defended. He's a two-time heavyweight champion. He's undefeated, yet he hasn't defended a world title, which is strange. It's crazy, really, isn't it, Jay?
It's a crazy stat, but look, like I think I saw Frank Warren last week say something about, to him, it just matters about who he won the titles from. So, look, it depends on what standpoint you're looking at. I'm sure he'll defend his title against Deontay Wilder. Whether he wins or not is yet to be seen. But, no, that's a crazy stat to throw out there that he's never defended his title. But, obviously, like, you got to put it into some sort of content as well. Obviously, he went for a mental breakdown when he beat Klitschko. He was out in the ring for 2.5 years. He lost his title, the IBF, straight away. He said he had to defend that title, and he was stripped. It was a messy situation. So, look, people were going to have their pros for it and their cons, and people are going to fight the corner of whatever side they believe. But look, he's a great fighter, and as Gunner 04 says, he's one of the best boxers. I think he's one of the best heavyweight boxers skill-wise in all divisions. A guy that size that can do what he can do. He's got attributes that you can't deny, and he's got some great victories on his resume. But yeah, he's never defended his title. That's something that can be something he can look to do. Do you know what I mean? I know the Gypsy King's always looking to overcome obstacles and make new stats. All great legend fighters are, and I'm sure that's something he does know. He's a great historian of the game, and I'm sure he's well aware he's not defended a title. And once he does defend it, that question goes out the window. So yeah, look, I'm sure he will defend this title at some point. But yeah, it's just a funny situation, ain't it, Joe? If you think about it, he went through that mental breakdown, and then when he beat Deontay Wilder, there was that massive layoff, and then COVID and that. So when he's held the titles at times, there's been personal issues or COVID or something that's kind of prevented him. But yeah, there's something out there for the fans to ponder on, I guess.
Definitely. And we've got another comment here. Thought he was going to save the belt, but no, just playing catch with it. I'm assuming this is referring to the WBC. Obviously, Deontay Wilder coming to a lot of criticism with the caliber of fighters he defended his WBC title compared to the likes of the fighters that AJ was fighting. I always say that whilst there was a big difference in levels of title defenses, however, Anthony Joshua had to deal with 3 mandatories because he has 3 versions of the world title compared to the WBC, which he only had that title. But yeah, do you think Fury is treating the WBC and the WBC heavyweight title with a level of disrespect and not playing ball like he did say he would?
No, I don't think consciously they look to disrespect any organisations. I'm sure they respect them fully. It's just sometimes in boxing, as we keep saying, it's the politics. It's just sometimes it's not done. Look, the fighters will fight any day of the week. That we all know that. But well, some will, some won't. I guess we don't know because, like I keep saying, no one's really betting on themselves when it gets to a sticky situation. People seem to be waiting for these fights. So look, I may be questioning my own thought process there, Joe. But look, most fighters will they will fight whenever they want to fight. But yeah, money comes into it, politics comes into it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Fury would ever disrespect an organisation, especially when they stood firm with him. With the first fight with Deontay Wilder, I think that was a voluntary defence. Wilder didn't have to give it to him. The WBC didn't have to say, yeah, obviously Fury's a big name, but obviously the WBC have done well towards him. I don't know. No, I don't think he's disrespected him in any way, Joe. I don't think that at all. I'd like to say personal circumstances, COVID, and especially with Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder had a long time to do the rematch clause last year, and he didn't activate it himself. So he's delayed the process as well. There was a long period from February up until December when the clause apparently run out that Deontay Wilder could have easily called that rematch, and he's held the division just as much. And look, I believe apart from the two Fury fights, I believe Dillian Whyte's resume is better than Wilder's last 10 opponents. If you pick Dillian Whyte's last 10 opponents against Deontay Wilder, barring the two Fury fights, I think Dillian Whyte's got a better resume. So he deserves a title shot. You got Deontay Wilder. He was having voluntary defences. His defences he were having weren't very good defences. He was having people after AJ beat him like Dominic Brazil. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't really anyone that Deontay Wilder put a statement out where you said, look, this is a guy that no one's really beat. He fought Fury. I know he knocked him down a couple of times, but he didn't look fantastic. Then got dominated in the second fight. So look, there's definitely arguments to say that Deontay Wilder's resume ain't that great. But I believe, and people comment out there, barring the two Fury fights, Dillian Whyte's resume is much better than Deontay Wilder's. And I believe that since even going back to when he lost to Anthony Joshua, it was a loss, but that caliber of fighter from there to now, Dillian Whyte's been in with better people.
And we've got another comment here. We're just going to quickly go through them before Ambrose Mendy joins us. Haydar Mahmood, good evening, Haydar. The inactivity is going to make the fight really cagey. They've both been very inactive. They both haven't fought since they fought each other last February. It would have been, I think it's 20 months now. It will be on the 9th of October when they finally do step in the ring. Do you think that will have an effect on the fight, or do you think that the fact that they've both been inactive kind of evens it out of it?
I think it'll benefit Deontay Wilder a little bit more. I think he's obviously had a bit more time with his trainer. He looks a bit, I'll give him credit, he looks a bit better in his training videos. I'm not going to discredit him. I think he looks like he's done some improvements, but we won't find that out until fight night. Yeah, I think ring rust for Tyson Fury, I'm not too sure. I think he's the sort of fighter that it might take him a round or two to get into it, but I think he's the type of fighter that can bounce into a fight. Goes back to his heritage, his gypsy background, and that I feel like they're natural fighters. So I feel like Tyson Fury with a camp under his belt, I reckon he won't obviously be fully on fire, Tyson Fury, but I feel like he can still get to them world levels. But same with Deontay Wilder, he's not fought for a long time. We haven't seen him out for this long period like he's had. He's had a loss that was quite bad, his mentality. So look, it makes it a very interesting fight. KG not so much, but I definitely feel there's going to be a knockout in that fight again. Either way, I'm not too sure what way it's going to go at the moment, but we'll see fight night.
Yeah, definitely. Get your predictions in, people. Obviously, it is a while away now. It's a few months away, but it's still a fight that I think we are all looking forward to. And here we go. It seems to always be someone in the chat. We've got Naf Mendez. He says, Fury's a cheat. Can't wait for Wilder to knock him out. Why do you think, Jay, that so many people do think? Because we see it on the chat. Every single live, we see it on the chat. A lot of people think Fury cheated last time out against Wilder. First of all, I know you've said that you don't believe this, you disagree with this, but why do you think so many people do think that Tyson Fury did cheat?
Not too sure. Great comment there, Naf. I don't know if Naf Mendez is from the UK or from America, but look, a lot of Americans are probably going to side with Deontay Wilder. And look, it's ludicrous. I don't believe he cheated for 1 second. I don't believe, if you believe he cheated, you believe the WBC cheated, and you believe that all of boxing cheated. So look, I feel if he cheated, then that all had to happen as well. And I don't believe that the WBC cheated. I don't believe Deontay Wilder's own team allowed Fury to cheat. I don't believe that. So look, I don't believe he cheated. And that's the same mentality that Deontay Wilder's got, that these people have got. Maybe they didn't believe that Wilder could be beat. It's one of them, when someone's indestructible, you just can't believe it, and you got to find excuses. But look, now if you got your own opinion, your own comments, and look, that's what everyone's entitled to. That's why we get the fans involved. But I have to disagree with you there, totally 100. I don't think he cheated, and deep down, Joe, I don't believe you think he cheated either.
No, I don't think he cheated. I never
No.
thought he cheated. I will happily say that he didn't cheat, and if he did cheat, then it's an absolute disgrace from so many working bodies that someone would have found out. You've got the Nevada State Commission, you've got the WBC, you've got Mark Breland, you've got Team Wilder, you've got Team Fury, you've got the broadcasters. There's so many working parts, and something would have come out. Someone from one of these organisations would have leaked something.
Well, his own team as well, stuff like that. It's not really believable, is it?
No, but there are plenty of Wilder fans that do believe it. So we have to talk about it. We can't just ignore it, because there are so many.
Why would you fight a man that cheated the first time? I believe that if you believe that he actually cheated and the guy did cheat, you'd say, look, I ain't fighting him. He can, because what's he going to say? Oh, I want someone from the WBC to watch over the reps. I want someone in my corner. Well, he had that last time. There's going to be no difference. So, like, to me, I just believe it doesn't really make much sense to me. And look, I'm sure if Fury loses, I guarantee that he won't be saying that Deontay Wilder cheated. I don't believe that for 1 second.
We've got Ryan O'Rourke saying, what about Fury possibly getting knocked out by Jared Anderson in sparring and using COVID as an excuse? He was getting some good rounds in with Tyson Fury, Jared Anderson. That's no secret. And there's been a few comments there saying he did look marked up, which he did. But as fighters often do when they're sparring, even Joe Joyce this week looked a little bit marked up. It's what happens in sparring. But do you think that could be a possibility, and they've used COVID as an excuse? Because if that is an excuse, that for me, that's a little bit distasteful excuse, obviously, with the seriousness of COVID-19 over the past 18 months.
It's a sad situation, Joe, but I feel like in this day and age, it's quite an easy excuse to get out of something COVID. People say to work, I've got COVID. It's not good to say, but it is happening out there, and you never know. It's being accused that this fight's happening in them same sort of circumstances. So, look, I don't believe it. Or maybe, if anything, it would have been down to ticket sales. I'm not saying that's the reason, but just to put people's minds at ease of what I'm kind of thinking. I don't think that he's been knocked out in sparring or anything like that. I think maybe it might be ticket sales. People from the UK can get over. Ticket sales weren't doing too great, and that's maybe why they changed it. But there's been things that are leaked out. I've not really heard too much about him getting knocked out by Jared Anderson. I know, like you said, they were getting some good rounds in. You're always going to get marked up in sparring. Look, you get people that don't like to show that, like Darren Till. If you look at him on Instagram, he's a UFC fighter. He likes to show up his posts when he's getting beat, when he's marked up, when he doesn't do too well in training, because he believes that's what the fans deserve to see. You shouldn't be up there every time you've done something great, because you've got to see what actually does happen in training. And you do get hard spars, and it happens to all sorts of boxers, all sorts of combat fighters. So just for seeing that, I'm not shocked in the slightest. And if people are shocked by that, that shocks me, because I think this is a sport we're following, and it's like a swimmer. If you don't want to get wet, you don't swim, do you? So it's going to happen. You're going to get hit. So look, he hasn't been, well, I'm not saying he hasn't been knocked out, but I don't believe the reason the fight isn't happening is because Tyson Fury's been knocked out. If anything, it would have been down to ticket sales. But if he has had COVID, obviously, we all wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully it wasn't too serious, because obviously we know this long COVID with some fighters like Rachel Ball.
Rachel Ball, key example.
The fatigue and that, it struggles. But look, there are leaks out there. Like I said, Joseph Parker's in Team Fury. He was at the UFC event. So look, there's no smoke without fire, but we'll probably never know, to be fair. And like I said, we deal with definites, and it's been rescheduled for the 9th. No matter how much we scream about it, it's not going to get changed, and that's that.
Yeah, and I think another one was F.A. Jagba. He come in, he tested positive. I heard Todd LeBoeuf, the one of the executives at Top Ranking interview this weekend. I heard that. So apparently 9. We're hearing 9 people, but
That's a lot.
I think if it isn't true, we will find out. I think we will find out because it's going to be hard to keep 9 people quiet, in my opinion, in this day and age where everyone's looking for that headline. A few more comments from the chat before Ambrose Mendy joins us. So get out your questions in for legendary boxing manager and agent Ambrose Mendy. He's got an absolutely fantastic story, and I really can't wait to talk to him. But the Londoner says, why are AJ White and Wilder openly putting Fury up as the main man in the division? Embarrassing. Are they doing that?
No, that's a bit of a weird question. The London, obviously, we appreciate your questions and that, but no, look, Fury's a WBC champion. In my eyes, the WBC title is the best title out there. No matter what world title you win, I always love the green and gold title, and I think that's what most fighters aspire to win. I know to win any world title is a great achievement, but if you had a pick of one, it's the WBC green and gold title, the Muhammad Ali title. And yeah, he's the missing piece. If you think for AJ, he's the wants the road to undisputed. So it's Fury. Before that, it was Wilder. AJ's never changed the ball. He's just changed whoever the title was with, and that's his aim. He's never changed from guy to guy, or he's always said, "I want Fury." He said, "I want Wilder." The fight never happened. Chased him for 2 years. Fury's now champion. I want Fury. So for AJ, that's not the case. Dillian Whyte, same thing. He wants the WBC title. He feels aggrieved. He feels like he was waited 3 years, was it 1,000 days for the title, fighting all comers, pitting his mandatory slot at risk, fighting Povetkin, losing, and then out of nowhere, Fury. It's a voluntary defense, which obviously he's going to be a bit pissed off about that when he's a mandatory. And then when Fury beats Wilder and Wilder's out that time, look, that period from February to last year, Dillian Whyte could have easily stepped in there instead of fighting Povetkin, fought Tyson Fury. Because of the politics, he's missed out again. So look. Wilder's got to fight Fury as well. So that question, really, all roads lead to Fury. So it's not anyone picking him as a main man. He's the WBC champion. And if you want to be world champion or the undisputed champion, he's one of the guys, isn't he? Fury ain't going to call himself out. So he's going to call out Wilder or AJ. So it is what it is.
Definitely, guys, smash that subscribe button, Pep Talk UK, share it with your friends, get the boxing world talking. And we've now got a counter argument from James Germain. He said, White is an embarrassment to British boxing. Him and Eddie definitely got away with a dirty test, in my opinion. This goes back to after the Oscar Rivas fight, I'm assuming, when it just dragged out that case with UCAD, then VADA. Did he fail a test? Did he not? That was a crazy time. What are your opinions on that? Because we haven't actually spoke about that, Jay. Do you believe Deontay Wilder is a drug cheat in this modern day and age of boxing?
Well, it's a good question there by James Germain, and it's do you mean is it Dillian Whyte or Deontay Wilder, Joe?
Dillian Whyte.
Dillian Whyte. Oh, Dillian Whyte. No, I don't believe he is. Look, I believe that he got let down there by the British board, and he got let down by whoever was testing him. He shouldn't have been named unless he was found guilty. He was named before they went through their court case or whatever it was, and he should have been private. So look, I feel like he got a discredit there. I disagree with that comment. I truly believe that. I believe that obviously whatever happened, and the outcome was that he was found not guilty, or he didn't fail a test. I don't know what happened in that circumstance, but you go with the evidence. You go with the fact that in the end, the ruling was that there was no case to be answered. So who am I to put that question to someone when someone else has told him there's no case to be answered by Dillian Whyte? So no, I feel like his name shouldn't have been made public unless there was a definite positive test or something, or he definitely broke the law and he was going to get a suspension or some sort of punishment for it. But look, the guy was found to have no case to answer, so leave him to it. Like, look, we've got other boxers out there that have been. We've got the great Canelo Alvarez, who's had instances where there's been drugs, or Billy Joe Saunders with a nasal spray. There's been so many circumstances with so many fighters, probably loads we've not even heard about that hasn't been made public. We've had people that's been bad, like Jarrell Miller. The guy failed so many drug tests, but that was found that he was proven to do that, and he had, I don't know if he served the suspension, but look, I'm just going to go on evidence and facts, and the facts is that he was able to carry on fighting. There was no case to be answered, and that's good enough for me. I'm not someone to judge or overrule a ruling that's been made. I'm just here as a fan, and I'm here to support the fighters.
We've got a another Wilder fan here, N7. Lasted 1 minute. You guys are in denial. Fury ducks Klitschko the same way he's ducking Wilder. 0 title defences to his name. Come on, let alone his failed PED test and no UK licence. Excuses. Carl, we've been told off there, Jay.
Well, yeah, no, that was quite a statement. I can't really make sense of it, to be honest with you. Fury ducked Klitschko. I'm sure Fury beat Klitschko. It wasn't a great fight, as we all saw. Look, we're not going to sit here and say that was a masterclass. To be fair, it was a dull fight. But he stepped in there, and look, I don't really understand that question. Is that about Fury failing a PED test or maybe on drugs when he fought Klitschko? Look, we're in the past there. We're going back, 6 years ago. Like, we can't change that. Look, we're all going to have our own opinions. As I said, there's countless boxers that have failed drugs tests. We've had a Jean Pascal recently failing a drugs test when he was about to fight Badu Jack. It's happening more. Oh, look, yeah, great comment there. Look, I'm telling you, there's probably more fighters out there that are failing, or there's instances where they may have failed and it's come back that the B sample's negative that you just don't hear, because there's no need to answer, because if the B samples are negative, the A sample really doesn't really count, if I'm correct. So I'm sure there's a lot of A tests that have been positive, and then the B samples come back negative. So it happens all the time. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that the WBC don't they have some sort of testing program? Obviously, you got VADA. There's a lot of things in place nowadays. So I don't know what to believe on that sense. We're just fans trying to enjoy the fights and that.
Yeah, and look, we've got N says AJ White and Fury all on PEDs. Let's be real here. Anyone who think AJ's natural is kidding themselves. What do you think, Jay? Because obviously it's a major topic. Drug cheating in sports. That was like the whole. It was kind of ironic in the build up to what was meant to be the Miller versus AJ fight, when Miller was saying that AJ was a drug cheat, and then it turned out that Miller was probably one of the biggest drug cheats in the sport, or certainly that we know of, fouling 3 initial tests, then a further 2, I think it was, later on that year. Do you think the likes of AJ, the likes of Canelo, these elite sports stars are taking PEDs? And are we just kidding ourselves because we want to believe that these are elite athletes?
Look, I don't believe AJ's on PEDs. Look, how can I discredit someone that's never failed a drugs test to the public knowledge? Do you know what I mean? He's never missed a fight because he's failed a drug test, and I think it's disgusting to even question someone or put someone's name in that disrespect when they've not even been linked to. Look, people question it and people say they don't believe it, but look, you work hard, you get a physique like that, and some people it's your body types in that. Like, he works hard, he's going to look like that. And look, I'm not going to discredit anyone that's not even been. Look, I've never heard him failing a drug test. I don't know about you, Joe, or even being linked with failing one. It's just people accusing him. It's a great comeback for fighters. People like Fury, people like that, when they look at someone, how are you going to discredit someone that looks like a machine? You're going to question their integrity, how they become that machine. You're going to say that you're PEDs, you've done this, you've done that. But I'm sure AJ's down the gym, lifting them weights, doing them sit-ups, doing what he's doing, and he's put a lot of hard graft into his weight, and he's the world champion. So look, I'm not going to discredit any of them guys. Look, Fury has been linked in that, but his last fight, he didn't fail his test. And White, I've not known him to fail a test apart from that incident, which, like I said, he had no case to answer to. So for me, it's none and void. So to me, it didn't really happen. And you go on your last performance, and none of them have failed a drugs test in their last fights, in my eyes, and that. So look, I think you need to start putting some respect on Anthony Joshua's name for sure. The guy's a 2-time heavyweight champion, holds multiple world titles. He won a gold medal for UK, and he's a great ambassador for this country. And I won't hear any bad words about him on here, especially when he hasn't done anything to deserve it. So look, I will stick up for AJ on that point.
Yeah. We got Boxing Source. Fury and Wilder are friends. They're playing the game right now. All right, Fury and Wilder may be friends. We can talk about that as well. Just while we're waiting for Ambrose. But what do you think about Fury Wilder? White, Fury and White. and Fury Wilder, do you think these are all friends? Do you think that these all get along when they're just trying to build this massive narrative for this massive heavyweight division? Because at the end of the day, if they all fight each other, that's what we want. To add a little bit of spice in there just adds to it. So do you think they do kind of get along, really?
Fury, Wilder maybe, but I don't believe Dillian Whyte does. Dillian Whyte's a prize fighter. I don't believe he has the mentality where he can be friends with people like that. He needs to be in that war mode, and I generally believe he doesn't like Fury. Look at the words that come out about the weekend. I believe he doesn't like Wilder, and I believe he doesn't like AJ. But one thing I do think is that he does respect AJ. I don't think he respects Fury, and I don't think he respects Wilder. I think Whyte dislikes all three of them, but I think he respects AJ. They've shared the ring couple of times. Whyte got the first one in the amateurs. AJ got the victory as a pro for the British title, which was a great fight. Everyone remembers that, December 2015. Great British title fight, history fight for me. And I believe that he respects the guy. He respects who he's gone on and fought. I believe that he respects the guys that he's gone on and beaten, AJ, to the guys that Fury's fought and the guys that Wilder's fought. And I believe that if you look at the people that Dillian Whyte's fought, they're kind of similar. People who AJ fought, they both fought Povetkin. They've both had a couple of similar opponents, and they're going on a similar path. So, yeah, I think they both got the same mentality. AJ and Whyte both. I know he's not really from London, but he's based in London. He's got that in him. Him and AJ got that mentality, I believe, and I believe that they got respect between them. But look, I don't believe Whyte really likes many of his opponents or many of the people in the heavyweight division. You've seen that with his camp. Look at Babbage the Savage. He's kind of got the same sort of mentality. He's probably maybe a little bit more nicer than Dillian Whyte. I know he's got two personalities, but I believe Dillian Whyte definitely is a mean prize fighter, and I believe that he doesn't like him.
Yeah, 100%. And look, the relationship there is probably very turbulent after. Look, we've got friends, Wilder, Breland, the whole Breland thing, that probably damaged it. The whole cheating thing probably damaged it. But look, we've got Ambrose Mendy in the waiting room, so we're going to add him to the stream now. Legendary boxing manager, advisor, agent, Ambrose Mendy. How are you, mate?
I'm really well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm absolutely fantastic.
Evening, Ambrose.
How you doing?
Very hot, very hot.
Hot as in climate?
Yeah. The climate, oh my God. It is very hot today. But we'll get straight into it, Ambrose, if you don't mind. Obviously, you've been in the game for a very, very long time. For anyone who doesn't know, how did you actually get involved with the sport of boxing?
Okay, you sitting tight?
We're tight. Strapped in.
I used to own a child. Let me go from the beginning. I left school to play football at West Ham. Never worked out. Girlfriend got pregnant. Early dad. But I started a children's wear business, and the guy who owned the pub adjacent to me one day came in and said, "Do you fancy coming boxing?" I thought, not for me. Same corner wins, blue corner all night, Royal Albert Hall. They went, no. It's over South London, and we were in North London. It's over South London. You can headbutt and kick and everything. Well, I'd heard about these fights, but I'd never seen one. So I was game. And so I went down there. To say it was enthralling is an understatement. When we came back, stopped on London Bridge, we came in, like, did you see this? Did you see that? And next day we decided to go into boxing. That guy's name was Frank Warren.
Wow.
And we just went into what was called unlicensed fighting. And he had a first cousin, Lenny McLean, who was the self-proclaimed governor.
Legend, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like went from there. That was my initiation in boxing. I was brought up a purist, like Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay. When he was Cassius Clay, I was screaming in the playground, I'm the greatest, and this, that, and the other. And I had an icon. I had somebody that I could look on, and he looked like me, never talked like me, but it's the way that I wanted to be. And gave me a sense of being. I'm one of 12 children, running consecutive years. And so we were always in little scrapes. You know, if you wanted to come down our road in Hackney, we'd have a lot of problems. But nobody, let me say this, nobody had a knife or a bat or anything else. You just had to box your way out. And yeah, from that moment that I went with Frank to go and watch his so-called unlicensed fights, I was absolutely gobsmacked and a sucker for the game. Now I like to think I know quite a bit about boxing.
Definitely. And what was Lenny McLean like, Ambrose?
He was a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. Because I had a silver tongue, he was like the complete opposite. He was brute force. He wasn't. I've got to say, it was sounds silly, but he was a charming guy. And I despise people who say that he was a bully. He wasn't a bully.
He was a great family man as well, wasn't he, Ambrose?
Yeah,
I've seen many interviews with him.
You know, it wasn't a bully. You know, it's just such a misconception. But you know, we had this thing that we grew up with in my family home. Never trouble till trouble troubles you. And that probably summed Lenny up.
That's a great saying to go by as well, Ambrose. And like you say, nowadays with the children and the kids, shall we say, using weapons, knives, and it's really disgusting. Like back in the not olden days, but say go back 30, 40 years and before that, you just dusted up on the street and that was the end of it. And it's a shame, but hopefully boxing or mixed martial arts can give these kids a pathway, because boxing does a lot nowadays for the youth.
And it really does. And it permeates. I spent the last 4 days, up until I got home about 3 hours ago, at Silverstone.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good mates with Lewis's dad, Anthony, and chuck that one in. He couldn't have done it. He couldn't have done anything for me yesterday, that's for sure. But I couldn't have been in a better place to see the union, people coming together, like out playing in the fields and the surrounding caravan areas and everything else till 10:30, 11 at night, like it was when I was a kid, except for some of these caravans cost £250,000. But it was great because that's what we need. If sports can bring together, like boxing has, you know, Sweet Caroline, Neil Diamond, and everything else, singing it all around the world. But it started with the O2 shows, and it's gone on and on and on and on. And we want my first love, boxing. The under knowing I've been a football agent for 41 years, but my first love is boxing. The sense of fairness, the committed belief. You know, where else do you have somebody who's had like 300 fights and has lost 90% of them? But it's called an expert. You know, you couldn't get it anywhere else. You have it labelled a mishmash, you know, mismatch. But it's there, and it's the way that the structure of boxing works. It's all about fairness. When a referee lifts somebody's arm, you'll never see, today anyway, you'll never see somebody throw a left hook or a right hook. You know, they're dissatisfied with what the result was. That, you know, we go on YouTube and we see there are instances, but so seldom.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think there's no one more qualified like the people like yourself to work in the sport of boxing. So what do you make of like today with Eddie Hearn and some more younger promoters in the game? How do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing for boxing?
I've known Eddie since he was 9.
Okay.
You can believe he ever was 9 because he's always been a man. You know, his dad Barry, we became really good friends through adversity, through everything. So I always knew Eddie was going to be a big noise, a big. And the same he'll tell you if you ever speak to Frank Smith. I met him the first day he worked in boxing. and it was so obvious that he had all the prerequisite skills to work. Because in boxing, you need to have plenty of bullshit, but at the same time, plenty of conviction, and you've got to want passionately somebody to win, to fully engage, with the ethics and the ethos.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I'm a massive fan of Eddie on the show. When we do lives and that, I've always sung Eddie's praises. I believe what he's done in boxing in the last 10 years is second to none. And like you say, I think Barry was a great example for him to learn from. I know obviously he got that with bit of him being his dad, but like you say, Eddie could flog a dead horse to a jockey. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, Eddie's got the gift of the gab, and Frank Smith looks like he's cut from the same cloth. I really like what Frank's doing at such a young age. You could, like, the age difference between Eddie and Frank's quite, like, I think it's about 14, 15 years, but they gel so well together.
Yeah, he was an Eddie pick. Eddie chose to work with Frank, and that's never a bad thing. The two of them are Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
They're such
Del Boy and Rodney.
Yeah. I thought I'd leave you to say that one. Yeah. But it's so true, and also to have a vision. I remember when James DeGale won the World Super Middleweight title.
Yep.
And it was on Premier Boxing, Al Heyman. They came with some stack of rules, which some academics obviously put together. Only one corner man can be inside the ring, the other one's got to be outside. And we were thinking, yeah, bollocks. You've got to be joking. I'm trying to explain to the commissioner, this guy's been preparing his whole life for this. He's going to become the first British Olympic gold medalist to go on and become a world champion. Anyway, I said to the guys, there's only, well, all right, maybe two of you can go in. I looked at Eddie, and I knew what he was going to do. And as soon as the last bell went, I saw Eddie moving around the side of the ring. Before he could do it, I dived down to the bottom row. And only to find out when I stood up, he was standing next to me. It was just, he's a great character. He's got tremendous work ahead of him just to maintain his status. But he will undoubtedly become the world's premier boxer. What I really like about him, when you sit at press conferences and stuff like that, the little guy who's a lower weight class, glad to be on the bill, or could be a world champion, and he's got a coat on that's 2 sizes too big for him. Eddie will name call every one of them, and he doesn't get it wrong. Doesn't get it wrong. And as we said, that's what the sport needs.
Yeah, 100%. And waiting patiently in the waiting room, we've got Luis Aparicio. We'll add him to the stream. Luis, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm not sure which camera to look at. I got a screen over there.
Evening.
Evening.
Okay, yeah.
But you're very faint. I can just about hear you, Luis.
Okay. Can you hear me better like this or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better now.
Really get close to the microphone then in that case. No, I know half those stories, but every time you tell them, Ambrose, it's amazing. It's just like riveting, every single word that you say, we like taking notes, we need to be doing this, we need to be doing that. It's amazing what you do, Ambrose. Well done.
Thanks very much.
No, definitely. Just get involved in the conversation, and definitely all the people in the chat get involved. Ambrose Mendy, we will ask him any questions for tonight. But Ambrose, what would you say is the best fighter you've worked with? Because the list of names are endless, but if you had to choose one that you just say your journey with that fighter was just far better than maybe even the fighter himself.
Okay, so let me two things. First of all, the best fighter I've ever been involved in terms of skill set has to be James DeGale.
Yeah.
The most exciting, the most riveting, Nigel Benn left everybody else in his slipstream. You know, with Nigel, I had so many laughs. It's unbelievable. You know, I remember once he came to pick me up from the airport in Miami, where we had relocated to after the shop, Michael Watson. And so Nigel picked me up, and he bought this funky Jeep, and we're on outside the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. At the traffic lights, a car pulls up next to us, and it's like something out of Miami Vice. So, you know, great big F-off wheels on it and everything else, and the guys in it are making the car move. The beat of the music, you know. I'm trying to think what the singer's name. Female American, no, Puerto Rican. Anyway,
yeah.
And anyway, so they're on it, and the guy's gone like, "Who are you looking at, man? Who are you looking at?" So straight away, I've never been afraid of anybody, especially confrontations. So I said, "No, it's okay. Like, we're just a couple of ignorant guys come from London, England. You know, so he's going to F you, this, that, and that." So I was going, "What, does he want some?" We would have got massacred. We would absolutely, I'm literally holding back. Just stop him from exacting revenge. But of course,
see where Connor gets it from, Ambrose.
Huh?
You see where Connor gets his edge from his dad.
Yeah. Connor he surprised everybody except for his dad. If you go and look at, I think it was the title challenge for Anthony Joshua when he first won the title, and Nigel introduced me to Connor. You know, affable young man, clear features, really good looking, and everything else. No scars, and he had very few fights. Very few fights. About 3 years before this, Bank had come to me and asked me would I help to train his son.
Yeah.
And pro, and I did. I took him to Hennessy. I think it was, yeah. It was. So Nigel's telling me how good Connor is. And I said, really? He said, I'll tell you what, he's going to be better than me. Now, Nigel can go and tell everybody else that type of thing to tell me, you know, you oversaw the nurturing and the growth and development of his career. That's a big statement to make. And it's something I've always kind of held back. Watching, was it Vargas fight?
Yeah. The 1 round blast out.
The confidence he exuded in engaging in that manner was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. I think I couldn't count how many punches he threw, but connect. You can imagine in the United States they're going, you know,
He looked a different beast in that fight.
Completely different. He became a man.
I think that was that fight that switched him over. I think, you know, every fighter has that one fight. I think that was his fight. Like you say, he turned him into a man and he destroyed that Vargas. Quite simple. Khan struggled with him, didn't he?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So going back and answering your question, there's only one Nigel there. You know, we after the Michael Watson fight, we went round gyms, you know, on the East Coast. They didn't have a clue who he was. And he was banging them out like there was no tomorrow, you know. Hey, you know, you want to spar? Yeah, okay, all right. Get changed, wrapped up and everything else. And then he would go to town. Completely fearless. Might sound silly to say this, fearless but scared. When he fought scared, he was the most. And when look at the Dave DeWitt fight. Come to America and take somebody on. Put your chin on the line. It's unbelievable. Iran Barkley couldn't believe it. He went on to win 2 further super middleweight and light heavyweight championships, and had 2 victories over Man Hurts. Anyone can do it here. When you go to the United States and prove yourself, amazing. And then, of course, the tragic fight with McClellan.
Yeah.
You know, so sad. But if we're boxing people, we've got to know that these are sometimes inevitabilities. But the saddest thing about the McClellan situation is he cannot accept the claudius because of his mental and health condition. He can't grasp how revered he is. And that's kind of sad.
That was just, for me, that fight was like, looking back on it, obviously I wasn't even born when that fight happened, but I love that fight, and it's just hard. It's hard to say that because it was such a fantastic fight, and I think that although it still is today, but if that tragic tragedy didn't happen at the end, that would go down as one of the greatest fights.
Oh yeah,
definitely on British soil, but like of all time. So, do you look back at that fight fondly, Ambrose? Because it was absolutely a huge win for Nigel, or is it all negative due to the obviously terrible events after?
Well, there's a young generation now that is claiming, you know, boxing for their own.
Yeah.
The sad thing is they would never be able to grasp the enormity of that fight. You know, Nigel had made changes in the team selection, and it looked like he was putting everything and the kitchen sink on the line. But will you ever, you know, I know that it's said that Lazarus was raised from the dead. Will you ever see somebody rise the way that Nigel did when he'd been punched out of the ring? And if it wasn't for
so early on in the fight as well.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the Mirror, the Sun, the Mail, the Express, the Times, the Telegraph, and all the other hacks that were there, and who knew Nigel and pushed him back up, you know, I think then, you know, if not McClellan, then certainly his corner had serious palpitations of the rectum. You know, they just absolutely bummed it. And Nigel was looking for home runs, you know, with wild but well-tutored punches. It was, I think it's one of those that anyone who was there remember every second. It was a bit like, I was telling you, I just come back from Silverstone. And when Lewis, I don't know if you saw it, was chasing down the clock. They had to get 10 seconds.
Yeah.
In him and I think Bert was in the league. Crazy. You know, great men do great things. The only sad thing about Nigel, you know, Nigel was in the army for 3 years, 256 days, and a breakfast. He's raised millions. So he served the country, you know, tours of duty in Afghanistan and Ireland. He's never received as much as a cornflake, you know, and it does hurt sometimes when you see, you know, we win a cricket match against Australia, you know, it's called the Ashes. We beat them, you know, everybody gets a medal, you know, MBEs are given out like confetti and this, that, and the other. Poorly served, you know, and I'm hoping, having watched William and George, you know, jumping up and down like two football loons. I'm hoping that they will look at, because when we go back, when Nigel was being built here, John Major, you know, Margaret Thatcher would always send regards and stuff like that. Prince Charles always saying that he was going to come to fights, but he either wouldn't be here or whatever. You know, he is a similar one to arrange. But boxing has to be better served than it is at the present moment. It's got to acknowledge it, you know. This, you know, and I don't want to belittle it. We're going into the Olympics and we're going to see this thing with rhythmic ballet, you know, where you've got a piece of silk and make it, you know, do crazy things and everything.
Yeah.
How does that boxing. How,
Mm.
you know,
Oh. And what a great team we've got. What a great team we've got going into the Olympic Games this year.
I'm better than Caroline Dubois.
Oh,
No,
Caroline DeBar, she's phenomenal, and I think she's got a serious
Fraser
chance.
Clark got a good
Big
chance.
Fraser Clark, Siobhan Clark, the McCormack brothers. Obviously,
Yep.
Pat McCormack is unbelievable. Do you follow amateur boxing closely,
Yeah.
Ambrose? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have to. We've got no choice.
Mm.
You know, and it was so cruelly served. You know,
With the lack of funding.
a year ago, I think it was about a day, maybe 2 days, and notice that, you know, the Olympics are not on. So everybody go back, you know, to your homes or whatever it was. I think even from a psychological point of view, it's like, what? The Olympics don't get cancelled. You know, they're an institution. But sure as shoots. And the only thing that might lessen our chances of coming home with a better haul than we ever have, the only thing that can stop that from happening is the lack of fans in the auditorium. You know, they've stated no spectators. No spectators. Sunday there'll probably be like 30,000 Japanese workers, you know, rooting their man or woman on. But we'll see. I think, you know, we've got a really good structure now. We are revered around the world. There are lots of medals coming back from international tournaments, and that's the grow bag for the future. So it is important. I think we're only 2 or 3 years away from, you know, a fully implemented mixture, you know, between amateurs and professionals, with the number of rounds being judgment criteria. So lots to look forward to. No question.
Definitely, Ambrose. Just want to go back quickly, Joe. I was want to say, yeah, with Nigel Benn, he's the people's champion, and I've gone back and watched many videos. I know Joe said he went around back then, but I went back and saw him, and I think I agree. Going back to boxers, I think if you become a world champion, you should be knighted in this country. I think it's such a hard achievement for a British fighter to become a world champion, female or male. I think, like you say, they deserve that recognition because it's a sport where you're putting your physical health at risk. Obviously, football players get it. If we won the Euros, I guarantee Harry Kane would have got knighted. Gareth Southgate. So yeah, and I believe world champions should get it. I remember a few years ago, like James DeGale, like you said, the first British Olympic champion and world champion. That's got to be a knighthood in my book straight away, and I think they deserve a lot of credit. Me and Joe are big fans of the amateurs and also the fighters in general, and we're on your side there, Ambrose. We totally agree with what you're saying. I just wanted to go back to that because I'm very passionate about that point as well.
Fantastic. You know, it's once again, it comes down to the fans, and that's why I was saying, with no fans being there, where's the fanfare going to come from? You know, when James became an Olympic gold medalist, they sent everybody else. When the plane landed, everybody else got off, and then he came down. So he had a great moment. You know, wonderful, wonderful moment. I'm talking of, I don't know why James retired. I just do not know. You know, when you
feel like he had more left.
Yeah, absolutely. And his skill set, you know, you close your eyes and there were silhouettes. Him and Billy Joe boxed exactly the same style. And I just think, you know, when he made his professional debut, we all know the story of Birmingham and Fun Time Frankie wasn't top of the bill. And I think just for a laugh or a crack, the fans booed James when he came in. And it just became one of those things. It was like a wall of attrition. And I always felt, you know, watching him day in, day out, you know, the mercurial Jim McDonald preparing him, I always felt James boxed so within himself. He had moments of brilliance. He is I've represented a lot of people. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most gifted person I've ever been associated with.
He was one of
Do
my
you
favourite
think?
fighters when he was active. He was a great skill set. Sorry, Joe.
No, do you think, Ambrose, that obviously world champion, Olympic gold medalist, but obviously you said you don't know why he retired, but do you think he could have achieved more in the sport with his skill set?
Yeah, absolutely. If he committed 6 months into a program, if he committed 6 months into it, I think he could fight again.
Yeah, really. Wow. And obviously we just see disgusting over the past couple of weeks. We see James DeGale have his gold medal and MBE stolen off of him. And it's just an absolute disgrace that we look in this day and age we get to that. We'll talk about a couple of current affairs, but yeah, that was really upsetting to see that, wasn't it, Ambrose, that James's gold medal and MBE got stolen.
I'd like to, first of all, it's disgusting. And especially when you look at the video and it's deliberate. Somebody wasn't walking somewhere as an opportunist. And who wants to walk out with a big belt? You see fighters when they've got wrapped over their shoulders, and it was no coincidence. So let's hope that whoever it is turns up at a pawn shop or whatever, tries it, and then gets their just desserts.
Exactly. I echo those words, Ambrose. Disgusting behaviour. Disgrace to a national treasure like that. Like I said, I class him as a national treasure.
And when James won his world title, I was there 6 inches away, 8 inches away, and delighting. It's one of them crazy things. I was looking at some footage the other day, which I took on my phone in the changing room beforehand. Then, when he was getting stitched up in the hospital, or I don't know if this got out at the time, but Jim McDonald's, big teetotal, agreed that James become world super middleweight champion, he would drink a bottle of champagne. So we had him on there.
You kept him to it.
Oh, you bet your life. Absolutely, you bet your life. But I think it was the team ethic that sometimes you see fighters who change their management, like they change their clothes. And trainers who don't get a fair credit are sometimes left out to dry. It's great that they started a career together, Jim and James, and they finished it. And were he able to be persuaded to come back, the litmus test.
Yeah, no, 100%, Ambrose. And another current affair there, obviously, from one disgusting thing to another, in our opinion. Anyway, I know you're a big advocate for for just anti-racism, really, and you said about fans in general. What did you make of the shocking scenes on social media, and do you think it needs to be addressed more widely?
Well, I'm West African.
Yeah.
I was born in East London, and I'm as Cockney as jelly deals, and I was African as brown nuts. I've got 6 brothers and 6 sisters. And in our street, you wanted to come down our street, you needed to be polite. And never trouble zero. Less trouble zero. I said it earlier on. And I just don't think people understand what racism is. Racism is like a cancer. You can't talk to it. You have to violate it. And until people come to... Look, let me put things like this. I can say this on here. you know, you nigger, you what, you coon, you monkey, you this, that, and the other. All that meant was every one of them names, somebody was getting punched. Somebody was getting punched. And I have to say, playground things when I was a kid, you put your arm around the same guy's shoulder and you become mates. You go in their houses and eat different food. You go into my house when I was a kid, you was going to eat, you know, rice, peas, and soup or whatever. So I went round my mates, they got braised beef, you know, and things I'd never I remember the first time I saw broccoli. You know, I was like confused. It's confusing. But it isn't like today. Today there is a manifest hatred. Manifest. I left school to play football, West Ham. And I used to go marauding as well, even though I'm a gooner, lunatic gooner. I used to go marauding, like the mob that preempted the ICF. And so everybody was well known to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm shaking my head. I can't understand how vitriol. Saka, it scores a penalty. I don't know if he's even taking a penalty, and those vested the responsibility into him should seriously rethink, you know, their strategies going forward. But we got to the final, and you know, there was room for conviviality, for real joy, and everything else. Where you turn around, but the vitriol was absolutely unbelievable. It just put things completely into context. But
I thought it was disgusting, Ambrose. I put a video out on social media. I know Joe's seen it in that, and I didn't condone it in any way. I was utterly disgusted with what happened. The next morning, I was fuming, and I just think that the country needs to take a look at itself with the social media stance. It's so cowardly the way that they're doing it. And you're seeing it now when they're getting caught. They're doing these grovelling apologies, and I just think, look, your apologies ain't good enough. For me, they're not good enough because you're only apologising because you're named and you've been shamed. When you were saying them things, you wasn't respecting someone's feelings. And for me, I just feel I'm on your side completely 100%. It's just disgusting. I've got young children under the age of 5, and look, I'm educating them in the right way. And look, what's happening needs to really, like you said earlier, they need to be violated in a way where they are being named and shamed. They're being put in the front of the papers. These are the people saying it, and I believe that once this starts happening more, you'll see it decrease. But I just don't condone it in any way, Ambrose, and I love what you're saying there, and I totally agree with it.
Thanks very much indeed. Thanks very much. There are, you know, you don't have these problems. If you were to go into the middle of Ouagadougou in the centre of Burkina Faso, which is a particularly good region, emerging talent.
Yeah.
But if you were to go in there, I remember you're selecting players on the basis of skills, and because of the country and the location and region, they're all the same colour. You know, so it's not like there's 2 Algerians and a couple of Moroccans, Egyptian and whatever. Invariably, you're black, and then you go with it. But I can't imagine for a moment. I understand. I don't understand when people spit at people. I think it's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
But when somebody says something to you, it works all your life. Somebody hits you with that type of vitriol, it scars you. You know, yeah, it seriously does scar you. And when people talk about, so I should say this, when people talk about, you know, how long has racism been going on in football? You know, when Albert Johansson, the Leeds United striker, played the FA Cup final, Leeds against Liverpool, it was a 1-0 result. He had dogs abuse that, and yet when you talk to players and you ask them, what about when we were playing? No, that was never the case. You know, was there real racism? Just like if you've got an injury, they get a wet sponge, freezing sponge, and put it on and say, go on, run it off. Just like that, the best thing to do is take no notice. Take no notice. This manifests itself. You know,
it'll get worse.
Yeah, to the point where it resonates. It resonates. So where are all these? I remember we used to have a guy, the head of the FA, Bert Millichip, who was also West Bromwich Albion, and I used to represent Brian Cunningham. But this whole thing about 3 degrees, you know, in any other context, it's insulting. So for all their pure skills and everything else, they got to be compared to a singing trio. It's about values, and you can ignore these things if you. They tend to come back and punch you in the eye, and that's no solution. That's no. If you're out there on your own, you know, like changing subjects, cricket. You know, I grew up at a time when South Africa was banned, they wouldn't allow a black player, Basil D'Oliveira, forward, Warwickshire. They refused to accept him on that tour. You know, don't get me wrong, there's absolute murders going on in the country and everything else.
Yeah.
But it was open to us to interpret. Look, maybe one of the biggest things that happened and the biggest benefits that come out of the aftermath of the England game was the fact that William and George were there. You know, I'm a dad. I've watched my kids grow up and everything else. When they were George's age, they knew where they were about. And so were that lad. They'll have sat down afterwards, discussed William, the federation that he's the president of. I think he's going to roll over and let lie. No, it's not going to happen. And you know, myself, you know, there might be things you want to sing, like a black reggae singer, whatever, to get that note and do whatever. So you get into the thing of imitation, but it's not malicious. You know, we had like.
I think the key word's ignorance. I think people are ignorant. They're just so they're so stupid. Like when we lost, my first thought was how gutted we lost. These people that have them awful thoughts in their head are just, I think they're sick in the head, to be honest. I think they've obviously got some sort of issues. And yeah, for them thoughts to come into your head straight away, to go on social media to write that, there's an issue on its own. Because like I said, I was with my young family and my first thoughts were how devastated that we lost as a country. And I put a statement out the other day, I think we should get rid of the word great in front of Great Britain, because we're not at top. We want to be great when we want to be great, because these people that people are racially abusing were heroes for 1 minute, but when they do something like missing a penalty, you throw them to one side, and that's not how life is. You win as a team and you lose as a team, and with that mentality, I don't think we have the greatness to be Great Britain at the moment. I think there's a lot of issues in our country, and it disgusts me, to be quite fair.
Well said. Absolutely, well said.
What would be your message, Ambrose, for people who are racially abusing people on social media and maybe not realising the effect it has on the people who are having the abuse hurled at them on an hourly basis?
What I would say, and let me be unequivocal in saying this, I was born Jewish. My mum's grandmother was a white Russian Jewess. Came from the west coast of England, come to London, met my dad who was in the RAF, and then had all us kids. I would say, you know, choose your friends very, very carefully. Be a leader, take the initiative, and stop. The easiest way, and to use that word, stop. You know, it's you can use it as a verb because it is a positive action. You know, when people ask you, "Do you take a knee?" For me, it's like, what a demonstration of affinity It's just unbelievable. Do you know how good that feels? I'm going to bow my knee. And people are doing it. My white mates, my black mates, my brown mates. We're all united in this. So when somebody comes along and says, and that's gone on for a bit now, no, it hasn't. And it will, in our lifetime, it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. So it's not like, wearing masks, you've got to live with it. We can continue to combat it, because if we stop for a moment, it builds again. It will self-inflate. So you rely on a generation. You imagine those guys, if they'd all been, or as many of them as possible, named and shown, how do their parents feel? We've had them, so everyone who knows me, really colourful, illustrious, growing up, etc., growing up. You know how many times I went to, as it was then, pubs? I'm not a drinker, I don't drink. I will have a glass of like champagne or prosecco, and maybe creme de menthe. But can you stop for a moment and think to yourself, when somebody is talking in such a violent manner, spit starts going out all over the place. That's people who've got it manifest within themselves. I remember when my eldest son was, and I was walking down my road, I was only 17, and as we approached the couple, a guy looked at me. He must have been about 50. He looked at me, and so I naturally smiled. And he put his arm up, like, on it. Oh, Gertrude. I fought 2 world wars for you black bastards to come over there.
Disgusting.
That man is now either dead, or he's a granddad or a great granddad. I hope his great grandchild is not one of them. I hope he would have learned a lesson. Because unless you learn from within, you're never going to portray outside. You can't spot. Unless he gives up a physical action, you're not going to be able to identify a racist. They don't walk around with big things on them. They used to walk around with the flag of St. George or the Union flag. And, you'd have policemen that had the badge on the reverse side and proud to show it off. But then that's ignorance. That is ignorance.
Yeah.
But I would, in answer to your question, I'd ask these racists to take great thought to the inevitable of one of them members of their family being seriously taken to hospital in emergency. Now they're relying on a person of colour for living. And without it, they're going to die. They may be injected with black blood. You don't know where plasma comes from, where it originates from. You don't know how it's going to be used. But only when something along those lines happens, dramatic change. It said even in marketing, you want to effect change, take massive action. Take massive action.
Yeah. I agree.
As it may
Totally
sound,
agree.
just in saying this, you should try to get the president of our association on your format. The only reason he hasn't is because nobody bothered to ask. But you seriously should try, because you're talking and you're promoting for the good. That's what we need to see.
We will try do everything we can to obviously promote and just try and stop it. 100%. And we just got moving away.
I've got a question, Joe, if that's all right, for Ambrose.
Go on, Jay.
Swiftly, to move on from that, Ambrose. I've got a question. How would you feel about these YouTube boxers now? Would you have been an agent for these? Do you see that this is a good success for boxing, or just say, like, obviously we've got to be real. Obviously, there's a lot of money in boxing. Obviously, as an agent, you want to make money because that's your profession. Would you see that a good market for yourself to get into if you were doing it as much now? If you were around now, we're like KSI, Logan Paul.
Yeah, the two shouldn't be confusing, with each other. But the objective when you go into professional boxing is to earn as much money as possible and retire safely.
Yeah,
it's quite simple. Nobody likes seeing an old champion, getting bashed up and stuff. But when we look at these box stars, as I like to call them, we accept the fact this is new money. This is new income. It's coming from elsewhere. It wasn't coming from the central standard pot, where somebody is an amateur and then they become a professional and then they dream of fighting for a southern area or an area title, and then they go on to a national title and then a European title. These guys are coming in and fighting. They've had 1.5 fights. I must say, I was so disappointed when Floyd Mayweather fought. I was so disappointed. I can't begin
when he fought Logan.
Yeah,
we done a watch along for that, didn't we, Joe?
Because
it was strange.
Mickey Mouse and Billy the Blind Man could see what the result of that fight was going to be. And, don't get me wrong, I got a lot of time for Floyd Mayweather because he's setting boundaries that nobody else is going to meet.
Definitely.
According to Warren Buffett, he's worth $750 million. There we go. Well, you haven't mentioned it, but so I will mention it. What's happened with, Tyson Fury?
That was what I was coming on to next, Ambrose. What do you make of it? It's crazy. The heavyweight division as a whole. What are your opinions on it now?
When Chris Eubank Jr. made his professional debut, he shared a changing room with Tyson. And Tyson was fighting this little roly-poly Canadian who out of nowhere launched and put Tyson flat on his back. And he looked like the Deontay Wilder. How was he going to get up? And when we got back to the change room, Tyson, that's it, that's me done. That's me finished. I can't be that little fat guy there. He put me on my ass. That's me finished. A really weird thing happened. Chris Senior, God bless him, in his prime times as well. Look, went over and said, what's going on? No, Chris, that's me finished. And I'm packing it up now. I ain't gonna go. And Chris looked at me and said, the facts speak for themselves. The fact that you are the fighter, you are the man, in his own inimitable way. It was like a Lazarus moment. If you come back, and I'm sure he will talk about it now, but he is such a confidence person. Don't confuse that with confidence. He's such a confidence. He thrives on it. This Tyson thrives on it. Now, he hasn't fought. He's been leading the high life. I'm no prude, but you go, who wants to be Johnny Nomads, Billy Nomads? You want to be out with, come on, let's go out and do what we're going to do. Having those 20-round sprays, in California clubs. He's been able to do what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, and know himself why he wants to do it. Deontay Wilder, if this was a skill set, all about skill set, he hasn't got a prayer. It's not. It could be further from that. So, we sit here now and wonder, and AJ's point of view, when's he going to fight? The Usyk fight is not, the eyes dotted and the T's crossed. And we're sitting here in limbo. It beggars belief. Meanwhile, Canelo's bouncing in and out of the ring. Thank you. Yep, I'll have him. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. So media point of view, what's being seen there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Boxing's flat at the moment, don't you think, Ambrose? It's a bit flat at the moment.
It's but I don't know what could have been done to preempt, this gap.
Yeah.
How good's good? We don't know. We just do not know. All the good stuff now is United States, temporarily.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
when you look, Joe Joyce is on here, Daniel Dubois. We've got some amazing talent.
100%.
What happens when Fraser turns over? He's been in the corner. Every major heavyweight fight, he has been in the corner operating security, and he just all these skill sets, moves. How do you feel after this? He could turn pro and do stuff very, very quick.
I agree. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And got two more questions from the viewers, Ambrose, and then I'll ask you about your latest project, which I know you're really excited about. But someone said about what was Don King like?
I tell you a funny story. when Nigel beat Iran Barkley, 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Las Vegas, and 10 o'clock at night here. So, of course, Nigel wins in emphatic style and everything. Like, listen, we're 2 kids out in the East End, and now everybody wants to be pal and this and the other. They had Tom Hanks, Tom Selleck, Gene Hackman, because Ryan O'Neal, the former Hollywood actor, manager of Iron Barkley. So they had all these great names, and we only had Engelbert Humperdinck, because they're in one of the casinos. So anyway, we go in, and fight's on. Before you know it, the fight's finished, and we go to the press conference. Barkley's screaming like a stuck pig. Go to the press conference, and we just wait for Bob Arum to come. And all of a sudden, it's packed. There must have been 150 people. All of a sudden, the door opens at the bottom, and this big booming voice comes out. Praise the Lord! Praise the Lord! Hallelujah! Hallelujah! It's Don King, and he doesn't break stride. He's going to Nigel Benn, the new Marvin Hagler. I told you all, he is the new Marvin Hagler. So Colin Hart asked him in the Sun, stood up and said, Don, yesterday you were saying that about Barkley. Without breaking stride, he said, yesterday I was lying. Today I'm telling the truth.
That's brilliant.
It was just, listen, they'll do degrees on the life of Don King. He's the most amazing person, an individual, charisma he exudes and everything else. And he's forgotten tricks that people have never bothered to learn.
He's such an enigmatic character. Go.
Let me tell you this. Going back to Eddie Hearn. He has equal charisma. He has this natural effervescence about him, built with brilliance. And so, 10, 15 years from now, people could be talking about him in exactly the same breath. Although pioneers, Arum, King, will be revered forever.
It's definitely a Hall of Famer, Eddie Hearn. Do you agree? Do you reckon it'd definitely be a Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I don't know what the criteria is, because I think Hall of Fame, you've got to be retired. So,
but then again, Frank Warren is in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, good point.
So I don't know, but
well, even at any point, Ambrose, I'm just saying, do you believe at some point Eddie will be in the Hall of Fame? I feel he deserves to be.
Even now, look for the Wembley shows. The Wembley shows alone. You know, they're benchmarks. But, you know,
Fight
I
camp.
did some news. Yeah, obviously the NEC, and then Finsbury Park, where we did bubbles in before there were bubbles heard of, and flew a circus tent in from Belgium because the powers that be, I wasn't their favourite person, and suddenly there were no venues available, no Wembley, Jarvis Field, no Royal Albert Hall, Mike Parrott. We couldn't get anywhere, and I tried to get Highbury. Unfortunately, when I went in, they started lifting the turf up.
Oh, right.
There was one of them. Yeah, it's going back. You know, talking about Eddie, he should be revered. He really should be. You know, and if a father can be more proud of his son, then I'm amazed.
Yeah,
I'm amazed. He's doing something he loves.
Yeah.
To be honest, the only
He's so passionate about it as well.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And final question, Ambrose, thank you for giving us your time this evening. But someone actually asked, who is or was the most difficult fighter you've ever had to deal with in your long and illustrious career?
You mean there's two ways to answer. Difficult in the sense that they just were non-conformists. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, difficult to work with. Difficult to work with.
Whoa. I'm trying to think what his name is. So you might be able to help me. It's light middleweight. Anthony Small.
Light middleweight. Sorry. Light middleweight. What was that? Sorry, Ambrose.
His name was Anthony Small.
Okay.
Oh, Anthony Small. Yeah, I remember that name.
Skills, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But running in close is Isaac Chamberlain. You know, again, incredible skills and everything. But will they listen?
Yeah.
Try and tell people, listen. That's why you've got ears. They're for listening. You've got eyes. They're for seeing. You've got a mouth, which should have a gumshoe. and
the basics.
That more properly sums people up. You can beat people like Harold Grant. Everyone talks about, you know, the Ben Watson, the Eubank era. We also had Harold Grant who was in there. You know, Johnny Melfa was an ABA finalist. And then you realise that there was an earthbed that grew these, you know, produced these guys who came and blossomed. And when you look at the likes, for example, of Alan Minter, Tony Simpson, you know, Chris Finnegan, Kevin Finnegan.
Yeah.
We weren't short in talent. The only difference was we had one channel and one channel only, giving up boxing. Yet we had the most iconic person in the history of this country, Henry Cooper.
Yeah.
Who was twice spotted, you know, sports personality of the year. And everyone loved him. Now, let me tell you something. When Muhammad Ali first came under the birth name of Cassius Clay, he was reviled. This booing and everything else, go on YouTube and listen. Absolute. But of course, he worked together with people. People accepted the fact that he speaks 100% truth. You know, and so therefore, why shouldn't people be honest and open? And we started at the top of this talking about racism. There are lots of lessons to be learned from him and the way the problem was dealt with. As you know, today the problem in the United States is probably worse than it's ever been ever.
And obviously that's something that needs to improve, Ambrose, and I think that leads on nicely to finish up about educating people, and you've got a new online course that you are launching to target the youth in the sports sector. And I know we're going to add Lewis back into the stream as well to talk about it as well, Ambrose. But if you just want to explain what this new project is and how people can get involved.
I'll leave Lewis to let you know how to get involved. But what I would say is, the essence of what we are creating is marketing. Every commercial component in industry needs developed marketing strategies. So what we're seeking to do is to show somebody that we can bring you back to education, multi-skill you, because the skills are transferable. And Lewis?
Yeah, very much so. You can hear me okay now? Yeah? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. The course. Thank you for that. And as you can see, Amber's got a wealth of knowledge, unparalleled in my opinion, in what's the sports, the boxing and football, and throughout. I know you spoke mainly today about boxing, but he could spend another 10 hours talking about any sports, basically. F1. I'm sure you had a great time there, Ambrose. I'm sure people were just as riveted to the screens as to you over the weekend. Telling you the stories about your work in Formula One and your work in tennis. If you want to go on to that, football. He invented the word super agent before he was super agent, as you all know. So basically, we are putting together a course which will bring the whole ecosystem of the sports for people into it. So basically, it is an introduction to sports, then understanding the sports industry that you're handling, networking tips, what's new in sports marketing, as you just described, Ambrose, there. The laws of the games, the client relationship, how you manage clients. I mean, this is a learned skill that Ambrose would actually be teaching you throughout the course, and all legal matters, which is the bedrock of of any sport, is the legal matters, and we'll be bringing in experts in the field to further talk about what the laws are. Negotiation skills that Ambrose, knows all too well, having worked at the very, very highest levels that you need to. So really, in essence, that is what the course is bringing in the giving those people that really have dropped out of school a reason for being, into sport. Maybe they dropped out of sport or dropped out of school. This is what you can do. There's a big world out there in sports that you could actually work in, the laws, marketing. And I would say, Ambrose, listen to this. One thing that comes to mind is creating an NFT, non-fungible token, of those moments back in the 80s. That would be a great project to actually work on. Ambrose. I think that would be a really good one to have. But anyway, that is in a nutshell, what it is. And to find out more about it, you could go to SportStartup.club. You could register in there. One thing is you got to be between 19 and 24 and unemployed. It's a free course, and we're running it for the kids to get them into the sports industry.
That's absolutely fantastic.
I've got a question, Josh, that's all right.
Yeah, go on, Jack.
100%. No, 100%. I think that's a fantastic thing you're doing there, Ambrose and Lewis. I think this is something that's absolutely amazing for a platform for people from that age, 19 to 24. I wish when I was that age, there was an opportunity for me, because believe it or not, I'm in my 30s. 15, 16 years ago, there wasn't anything like this available at college, or even now. I believe schools should have boxing as one of their main PEs. I think that's a great discipline. 100%. It's not just about the physical attributes, it's the mental, the discipline, the respect you learn for people. And I can't echo what great stuff you're doing there. In the future, though, is there going to be an opportunity for older people? Because like myself, I'm in my early 30s. That is something I would really be interested in doing, because with this channel, obviously, I help with marketing and branding and commercial stuff. But I don't really have, like you say, the experience like you've got, Ambrose, or the knowledge you've got. to back it up, and something like that I would really love to learn. Is there maybe an option for that later on in the future? Because it's something I would like to look at.
Yes, there is, and we are developing that as we speak. But because this is taking priority, we've got the funding to actually do this. And, you know, Ambrose was so passionate about it that he said, well, let's start helping those that need help. And yes, bringing in for older, for professional ones, so people that want the knowledge to get into the sports and the sports industry. That listen, you could go on and read in many textbooks on, you know, how to do this, how to do that. But when you have someone like Ambrose, you know, telling you, you know, this is what I did and this is what worked, and by the way, this is what did not work, which is what is not taught in textbook, and you can't get it off textbook, is that knowledge that he has to bring it out onto there. But in answer to your question, yes, we will have that. Again, you know, just down below, if you want, you could leave a link onto that particular course. But the one taking priority at the moment is this one to help kids basically that are unemployed.
That's fantastic.
And it provides a fantastic opportunity. Obviously, free is just opportunities, development and personal growth, because obviously that age between 19 and 24 is a time where really I think you become an adult. So that growth, and that will help so many people. And with that, thank you so much, Ambrose, and thank you, Lewis, for joining us today. We could speak all night about these boxing stories, and hopefully we can have you again on another time sometime soon, Ambrose.
Definitely. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening, both of you. Thank you.
And you too. Take care.
You too.
Amazing.
Keep
You've
safe.
done a fantastic work. Well done. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
That was fantastic, wasn't it, Jay? That was really fantastic. What stories Ambrose Mendy had.
Great stories, great knowledge. It's priceless stuff. Like when you got experiences like that, like you say, they can't be bought. And them stories are from people that have lived it, experienced it, and they can then give it back to people. Think what he's doing with his project's fantastic. Like I was saying, wasn't maybe directing meaning people like me to get opportunities now, but going back, if there was an opportunity like that for me, that would have been fantastic. So people, if you're 19 to 24, get involved in that, because anything you can learn in marketing, branding, it's going to come helpful. If you want to do stuff online, like on YouTube, or if you want to do it in any type of business, you're going to need them sort of attributes. So it's worth doing. Free, like you said, Joe. They said it's free, so there's no excuses. People get in touch, and yeah, them stories with Nigel Benn, James DeGale, then turning over Tyson Fury. Some great stuff there. And look, it'd be another guest to have on in the future to go on about football and stuff like this. There's so many stories you can talk about. It's it's a unique but special guest. They're guests I do like to get on, because you can pick their brains, and as I said earlier, you learn something new, Joe. You learn something new all the time.
And I always say the best guests are the ones where we don't have to talk, and we didn't have to talk much tonight, because the stories that Ambrose was saying were absolutely fantastic, and I could have listened to him all night. No,
definitely, and I'd like to pick his brains in the future. Like you said, to look, he's someone you can ask stuff about, and that's what his project's obviously about. He wants to help young people to learn, to gain knowledge, to gain experience, and that's great to have someone in that position that wants to help people. Like, it's just a unique opportunity. I'm so jealous for the young people that go on and do something like this, because especially free, that's another bonus. Is that there's literally no excuses to go out and do this course. So I think it's a great opportunity, and you need more people with that experience to come and help younger generations, people that are unemployed. That's another great factor to it. It wasn't just young people, it's young unemployed people, to give them an opportunity to do something like this. Because look, this is a very unique business to get into, to maybe, if you want to do this, as I was saying, 15, 16 years ago, there was never these sort of opportunities for me to do a course like this to help me in a situation like maybe I'm in now. So it's the way the world's changing. It's more going into media aspect. You're learning, you're getting experts like Ambrose who's willing to throw their knowledge down. It's great times, I feel like, for young people to get involved in this, and we need it. He mentioned the knife crime, the racism. It's not a great great thing at the moment, and we need to educate the young people. And opportunities like this is going to help educate people further.
Definitely. And what a fantastic way to finish. We'll find out the link. We'll make sure that that can be done. And yeah,
Definitely.
no excuses. Let's get this done. But great live tonight. Thank you very much, everyone who joined us. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you to Ambrose and Lewis for joining us. And thank you, Jay. Yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, JLB1989, also on Pep Talk UK. I think there's a watch along this weekend, so yeah, people tune in. We'll get it confirmed. We'll put it on our socials. But yeah, you know where to find me. It's down the bottom down there. Like and subscribe to the channel, Pep Talk UK. 20k, we're aiming for that. And yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah. Fantastic as always, Jay. I'm sure we'll be live later on in the week and some big interviews dropping very soon. I've been Joe P. This has been Pep Talk UK, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.